Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Thoughtful Talent Show. I'm Jen Werner.
And I'm Chad Ahern. And today we're joined by fellow ED Grow and Gallup-certified Strengths Coach, Gina Brennan. Gina is based in Orlando and is a fellow coach that focuses on working with teams and organizations to improve their performance through improved employee engagement. And I hope I got that right, Gina. Is there anything else you want to add or any clarification around that?
Oh, no, you got it perfectly, Chad. Thank you so much, Chad and Jen, for inviting me today. It's one of my favorite subjects to talk about because CliftonStrengths has had such a profound impact on my life, and I've seen it have such a profound impact on the lives of so many others. So it's always a subject that I enjoy talking about. So thank you for inviting me.
We're happy to have you. We invited Gina today because we're going to talk about the theme of belief. And since I don't have it very high, it's my number 14 talent theme. And yet my two distinguished ladies here have it as 2 and 3 respectively. And I'll let them clue you in on who has it where. But that's why we were invited Gina today. And to start, Jen, I'm going to ask you because you always read them so nicely. What is the standard definition that Gallup has around the belief talent theme?
Yeah, so Gallup has this as people exceptionally talented in the belief theme have certain core values that are unchanging. Out of these values emerge a defined purpose for our lives. So I think that fits it perfectly. This is my number 3, and we're so happy and thrilled to have Gina with us because I know Gina has her belief high too, number 2, right, Gina?
Yeah.
So we're going to, just fill up with all the knowledge we can about how her and I both use our belief as a talent theme and to make us do great things for others, and then also talk about how others use this theme and how we've seen it used.
Yeah. So to start off, I'm gonna pose the same question to both of you because I don't have it high. I am kind of curious right off the bat how the belief talent shows up in your life. How do you live it? What does it inspire you to do or not do? And Gina, since you are our wonderful guest, I'm going to start with you.
Okay. So it's funny when you ask that question because the first thing that comes to mind is how does it not show up in my life? Because it's everything I am. And it's really, when I think back to even when I was a little kid, it's everything who I've always been, even before the CliftonStrengths assessment, identified these talent themes. So for example, I'm very driven by the things that I believe very strongly in. And I kind of even make life decisions based on those things. And that's really what's described in that definition, from the careers that I've chosen to my lifestyle, diet and exercise, to just how I raise my children, to who I am as a spouse and a friend to others. I think it's all really driven by my belief theme.
Gina, just for clarification, since belief is number 2, which one happens in your wonderful grid up top there? Which one sits as number 1? Developer. Okay.
Yeah,
so
yeah. And we know none of these themes sit alone, right?
Oh,
so
definitely.
Developer, belief, significance kind of all work together. Really, all of these work together.
Right. Yeah, no, I wasn't trying to discount. I just couldn't remember out of your list which one followed. Sort of led the pack in terms of its ordering, but given how encompassing your belief seems to touch your life, I was kind of curious where your number 1 was. So
it could be number 1, but developer is very similar in the sense that they both I don't drive me to want to help people. And I feel like for as long as I can remember, I wake up every day wanting to help others. And each of my jobs, I've kind of always framed, like even waiting tables when I was a teenager, like I didn't look at it like I was just waiting tables. I looked at it like I was really helping people have a great experience, or, have something that was amazing in their evening out or whatever. In the car rental industry, I always looked at it like I was helping people when I put them in a more beautiful car, or by selling them insurance, because I knew it was going to give them peace of mind. So everything I did, I always, in my mind, felt that it was helping others, and that's what I'm driven to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to add, Gina?
Oh,
No.
Well, that's an example.
I definitely see that in you, Gina, and in the work that we've done together. I do believe your belief is strong and guiding you. Those values are so strong, and you can see it coming through in what you do for others. So,
Thank you.
I do think that's kind of a general statement, maybe we can say, is that it's like our core values on steroids. Because
Right.
for me, it's like my why. It's always been like, this is why I'm doing it. This is my purpose. I've had jobs where I didn't feel like the job or the role really meshed with my core values. And so for me, it took time for me to connect why I was doing it, why it was important to my core values, so that I could actually be successful in it. With all these high executing themes, it's really important to me to get things done. And where your developer is leading your belief in wanting to help others and give others the best place, the best experience, I feel like my responsibility and achiever is constantly being pushed by my belief to make sure that I'm actually getting things done, getting the right things done, and really working towards being responsible to other people, to what the needs are at the moment. So you used your example of your life, and I wanted to kind of go back to mine. I was in sales for a time, and I don't like sales. I'm not salesy. I don't like salesmen. So for me, it was really hard. And I was selling hospital furniture. And I started thinking about the end users who were using it, and really going into thinking about, like, if I'm at the children's hospital and this mother and father are there with their baby and they have to be there 24 hours a day for a week, I want them to sit in the most comfortable seat or chair or sleep in a sofa that's so comfortable for them, because what they want to worry about is not their own health and safety and whether they got a good night's sleep, but their baby. So supporting them in that way was how I connected my belief structure and my core values to what I was doing, and made me successful. It also meant I stopped paying attention to, like, what about the money part of it? What about, it was all about that end result for the end user. So yeah, I absolutely believe that it is our core values that shine through, and they're different for all of us.
Gina, I want to mention something that you actually brought up in our pre-show yesterday. You read off a wonderful, I think it was from Webster's Dictionary, and had a wonderful connection between the sort of standard definition that might be in the dictionary and the slightly different definition that Jen wrote about how this theme is described. Do you want to bring that back up for our audience and share your learning there?
Well, I just thought it was really interesting to look at the Webster definition, even though, our themes are so much more complex than that.
Right.
But the Webster definition says that it's an acceptance that something's true or that something exists, or it's a trust, faith, or confidence in something, when you think about what the word belief means. And so, so when I read that definition, I think of all of the things that guided me throughout my life stem from these core values, and it's what really has motivated me to be who I am. And what I used the reference of wanting to help others earlier, but developer also makes me want to help others grow and be the best that they can be, and it helps me see potential in everybody. And my belief system really drives me to want to make a difference in people, and okay, I guess significance plays a part in that too. But I think it's these core values that are just unchanging in our lives that drive the decisions that we make and drive who we become. Mm-hmm. And Jen mentioned not being motivated by money, and it's like I've been very blessed to have great success in different careers in my life, but not for one day have I ever been motivated about the paycheck. And I could have been the top salesperson, whether it was waiting tables or in the rental car industry, but it was never about the money. It was about how I could help people the most and how I could make a difference in their lives. And to me, the money was not the reason to do it. So the driving force has always been something much stronger than that. Yeah. Even when you asked me to talk about myself, I was like, you know what? I'm much more comfortable when other people talk about me, because my belief system tells me that I'm supposed to be humble and I shouldn't be talking about myself. So, It drives a lot of the things that we do.
Yeah, definitely. Both of you have brought up the idea of this set of core values, and that was even mentioned in the short description, sort of short definition that Jen read about the theme. I'm wondering if either of you are willing to share maybe some of those core values and what they might mean to you, or maybe how those show up. I'd be interested to hear if they are very similar, given that both of your belief themes are very high, or where they might vary and what that might tell us.
Okay,
So,
Jen, do you want to go first, or do you want me to?
Go ahead, Gina.
Okay. So when I think about my core values, trust for sure is at the top. It's really important for me to trust people that I'm around or that I'm working with, or really that I would invest my time in. Trust is a really important thing. Loyalty, integrity, hard work, faithfulness, all of those things really drive who I am, I would say, and are really like, maybe the last one is altruism, which is like really being a servant and a servant of others. And I definitely see myself that way. I wrote down kindness, and then my husband corrected me this morning and said that I'm not kind, which is really funny because I think of myself as very kind because I spend my life doing so much for other people. He said, well, you're kind, but you're conditionally kind. And I think that belief drives that, because I'm really kind until someone breaks my trust, or until somebody, goes against my belief system. And then I'm maybe not so kind. So he helped me hold the mirror up about that one this morning, which I thought was fun.
Gotta love those spouses. They're always willing to call us out.
Yeah.
Bring out the
But we're
truth.
very black and white too. I mean, that's the thing with whichever values it is. Anyone that I know that has high belief, they're very black and white and unbending about their beliefs. And you can't really change their mind. You can't really get them to come in a different way because they just feel so strongly in the things that are important to them.
Yeah.
Interesting. Jen, how do your values set either mirror or differentiate different from what Gina's just laid out?
They're very similar. I had truth, honor, respect, purpose, work ethic, responsibility. And then I will add one other one that has always bothered me, is equality. So I can't stand, and like Gina said, it's all very black and white. And I really can't stand when someone's being picked on, bullied, set apart from someone else. And I even look to see, like, where is my includer in my list? Because that's never been an issue for me. Like, I'm worried about excluding someone, but I don't like it when people are pulled to the front for unequal reasons. That just feels really bad to me, or worse, like pushed to the side because of different reasons.
The fairness.
Yeah, I don't like it. Yeah. And it's just really strange when we talk about that, like black and white. I think these core values also make me really predictable and loyal. So loyalty is something I rank really high as well.
Okay. Both of you have brought up this idea of black and white in terms of how does that come out, or what does that look like? Is it there's a yes answer and a no answer, or is it I guess because I don't have belief as high as you, maybe I'm not thinking about it the right way or know how to phrase the right question, but how does that black and white translate? How would somebody recognize that in your behaviors, in your actions?
For me, it's really like it sometimes can look judgmental, right? So there's a right and wrong way to do things. Typically, there's not a lot of gray area. So it's the like if it's been tried and true, we know this works. This is what we should be doing. In that, it looks very black and white. There is no like, oh well, maybe we should try this other thing because we've already decided that this is the way we're going to do it. It doesn't mean that can't be changed. So that's the other, we tend to be a little on the stubborn side, right, too. But if facts and things are brought to us that show us that there is a change, or there is a way to do things better. I think that's something where, like, with all of our other strengths, we can work with other people to make that happen if it's doing the right thing the right way. But if you cross one of these lines, like Gina was saying, about the kindness, if you cross that line, it doesn't feel good. So, like, for me, if it doesn't feel right, it isn't right, it doesn't align with my values, no amount of money or explanation will change my mind. I will need hard evidence to prove me wrong. So, like, that's a little bit how that black and white looks for me.
What about you, Gina?
Jen, you shared some great examples of black and white. For me, I think it's back to that belief system, right? So if I believe that it's really important to be loyal, or to tell the truth, or to be trustworthy, then anything but that is not okay with me. So you either are or you aren't. Like Yoda says, there is no try, right? Do or do not, there is no try, right? For me, that's black and white. Like, if we're loyal, if you're honest, there's no gray, right? You can't be some kind of white lying and that's okay. No, if it's a lie, it's a lie. Like, I'm black and white. I have a certain belief system when it comes to how we parent. If you don't parent that way, it's wrong. Like, I have a little bit of that perspective that gets me in trouble too, because I'm unbending about certain things that I feel really strongly about.
Okay.
So,
I appreciate the clarification, because I think that for a lot of other people that might not have beliefs quite as high, there is that much more of a gray area. I probably get along with the two of you so well because my analytical keeps me in that black and white. There's either the data or there's not. And so, but you're talking a little bit more about at the core of people versus external information or statements or research or whatever.
Like, it drives me crazy when people say, oh, well, I didn't intend to hurt your feelings. Like, I didn't intend to tell a lie, right? I mean, it's like, how do we judge ourselves, right? We judge ourselves by our intentions, but other people judge you by what you do to them and how you make them feel and what your real action is. So to me, action is what kind of almost delineates the black and white, right?
Yeah, interesting.
Not really what you intended.
Yeah. So you've both brought up this idea of sort of running afoul of your beliefs or your belief talents. What does that look like, from the outside? If somebody has sort of broken the barrier or broken the trust or the loyalty, are there particular reactions that you have that maybe you've also seen in coaching clients, or typical reactions of people you've also seen with that belief talent high in their own list of talent themes, just so that others, particularly those that might be listening to us, can recognize it from the outside? What does it look like to break that belief or run afoul of that talent belief? Gina, why don't we start with you this time?
Okay, so I guess I have a couple of perspectives on that. The first is, it really depends on what the foul is, and what and the relationship that I'm in with the person. So when I combine who I am with developer, positivity, empathy, significance, my goal is to make an impact on people and to make a difference. And so if there's a foul, the first go-to is like, what can we learn from it? And how can I help them be better? And how can I give them feedback on how they can improve so that doesn't happen in the future? So I try to lean on my developer in times like that to really help them grow from it, because there is one right way. And
it's your way. It's your way.
No. I'm kidding about that. But then there are other things that I would never come back from, like, deep relationship trust things that if it did happen, I wouldn't be pulling in my developer to try to change it, or my positivity to see the bright side. It would just be, that was something that I can't come back from. I can't,
yeah.
I'd be moving on and not investing the effort into that person anymore once it happens. So I think it depends on the level of intimacy too. What happens when there's a foul.
Okay.
That's such a great reasoning there. And I think I see that too. I'm definitely much more forgiving in ways that okay, burn me once, shame on you, burn me twice, shame on me kind of thing, like it won't happen a third time. But for me, I think my beliefs help shape who is going to get close to me. So for the most part, you don't get close to me until I let you in my inner circle. And once you're in, it is a little bit dependent on that foul. But like if I witness lying, unethical persuasion of something, singling out that bullying situation that we talked about, or any disrespect, I may choose then to keep you at an extreme arm's length where I am very cautious with all interactions with you going forward. And you're not going to get back in. Unfortunately, that is something that I know about myself. Once you're on the outs, you're not coming back in. And that's a tough place to be. But I think it goes back to that trust that must have been instilled in me as a child too. Like it is so important to be trustworthy. So to be on the outs of that is just never a place I want to be, nor a place I want to put someone else. So I can't imagine why anyone would do the things that they do to break trust. It doesn't make sense to me. Yeah. So I can't let you back in.
Okay. Well, we know where Jen's gates are. We've talked a little bit about how this has shown up for the two of you in terms of living it in your own life. I'm kind of curious when it comes to sort of seeing the positive sides. We just talked a little bit about, running afoul. I'd like to get maybe more on the positive side of things. Could you help us think through kind of how this theme has helped you in your life or in your work? And if there are particular examples that might highlight that for our listeners and our audience, I'd love to sort of put some concrete, what does this look like, or how has that helped you in a distinct way, especially as we've talked a lot about, both of you have so far highlighted that belief is a lot on the inside, but we also interact with the world. So I'm just kind of curious how the theme translates over into action. Maybe that's a little bit of my theme showing up of wanting to see the practical side of things, but I'm kind of curious what both of you have to say. And Gina, I'm going to go to you. You're our wonderful guest. So I'm going to give you the floor first.
Sure. I think anyone who knows me well would describe that belief is, it definitely is an executing theme. Because if I believe in something, I will move mountains to make it happen and get it done. And that's before I even took my CliftonStrengths assessment when I was in my 20s and I was in the rental car industry. I really believed in what I was doing, which helped me sell more effectively because I believed I was helping my customers. I believed in my product. In fact, I was lucky enough to become part of a consulting company where we taught frontline employees how to sell, excuse me, and we created a whole sales process collectively around what we did that worked effectively. But that sales process was like a circle, like a wheel with spokes. And it's not original to have that, but it has 6 steps. But the middle of that sales process, I kept saying, it's got to be belief, because at the core of it all, you have to believe in your product, you have to believe in your price, you have to believe in your program. And that's in the middle of that sales process today in a very successful consulting company 30 years later, this core belief that has to be there for someone to be effective selling. And so that's one example. And that's before I even took my CliftonStrengths assessment.
Yeah.
And then, I as a mom, I went to a little gym class and fell in love with the mission of the program, the mission statement on the wall. Motor skill development made fun leads to a lifetime of success, right? I just went home that day and told my husband, I have to buy this company. Like, I want this mission for the world. I want to change the world. I want to help kids. And I believe in this mission so much that I want to be a part of it somehow. And so we bought the franchise and ran it for 6 years, and then this third career as a CliftonStrengths Gallup-certified Strengths Coach and with Eat to Grow, I very conscientiously chose this as my third career because I believed in the power of this tool and what it can do for other people. And I truly think that my belief is why people say yes and why people, hire us, do it, buy the program, go on the journey with me, because they they're inspired by that belief, you know,
Mhm.
and even though
Yeah.
it's an executing talent, it's how I get things done. I think of it very much as an influencing talent, that I've always influenced others through this strong belief that I have about something. So, so those are some examples. And I guess the last one would be fundraising. If I believe in the mission of an organization, I could never ask you for money, but if it's to help somebody else, I have no problem going to anybody and asking for donations because I know it's making a difference to others. So
Yeah.
those are 4 examples of how belief shows up for me.
Those are beautiful, Gina. And I love that you highlighted also that because I know as a coach myself that we often get questions around, you know, the colors and the domains and, you know, how solid they are, you know, do they stay in their own domain all the time? And I think it's beautiful that you just highlighted another example of, you know, executing really actually coming out as an influencing theme. So thank you very much for sharing that. And I happen to notice you also have an influencing theme. So I'm also kind of now curious, my learner's kicking in and wanting to know, well, how much is the significance playing there? But that's probably a different topic for a different podcast. But I want, what's that?
That's week 8, right?
right. Yeah. But Jen, I want to hear from you about, you know, the same sort of question, you know, how's belief sort of helped your life, helped your work? How does that come out in a practical sense to have a you know, positive impact?
Yeah, like I said earlier, it really is about the why, like why I'm doing this, what my purpose is. We talked about that, like no amount of money will ever be a motivator for me. I've been successful in all of my jobs, but that the success and sometimes the belief almost can look competitive to the outside. Because it does push us to the point where we're getting stuff done at a level and at a speed that maybe others aren't getting to, because it's so powerful. It is so much. And that's where I do believe it really surely fits in the executing domain, is because, like Gina said, she will move mountains to make it happen. Like absolutely, this is how it is. Like once you're on board, it was when I first took CliftonStrengths, it changed my life. I saw myself completely differently, never understood that these words were something other than just like things about me. And then when I understood what they meant and how I'm using them every day, I'm like, everyone needs to know what their strengths are. I made everyone I knew, everyone I was close to, I bought them a book or I bought them the assessment and I made them take it because I needed to know what was different about me versus them, and like how we all tick and how we all work. It was so important to me that I needed this to be part of my life. So that was my journey into becoming a certified strengths coach, because it is about the purpose. Like now that I know this about me, like everyone needs to know this about themselves so that they can do the great things that they need to do. I talked about it making me predictable and loyal. Yeah, I'm really unchanging in that way. I'm very predictable as long as things around me are predictable. When my life is constantly changing, that does push me into a weird place, but I will be predictably stubborn about a lot of different things.
I love that, predictably stubborn.
Predictably stubborn. But I think the biggest place that it's been of benefits to me is being able to share my why with others I work with has been a really strong motivator. And it builds so much trust with them. So I've had everyone I work closely with becomes like part of my inner circle. They are now my best friend, and you're going to be really close to me and you know everything about me, and I'm going to know everything about you. And together we're going to make like the amazing things happen. But that doesn't happen without me sharing my why and really getting close to people and bringing them in. So that belief really has been the thing that has brought me closer and into relationships, which is, you know, not in my top 5, but it feels relationship building ish to me also, because it can build such strong relationships when you're able to find someone whose beliefs align with your own.
That's awesome. Awesome. Yeah, it's another great example of belief going in another domain and play around a little bit.
Yeah.
I want to tag on to or build on something both of you have brought up, and we've mentioned this in other episodes, that each of these themes has sort of a double edge that they can go awry fairly quickly. We've already talked a little bit about if you run afoul, but predictively stubborn. Stubborn is not exactly the most positive word we could probably use for us. So I am kind of curious about kind of where this theme has had a sort of a negative impact or has gotten in your way of either your work or your life. Maybe some of the more raw or disadvantageous applications of the belief talent theme and its application. And Jen, I'm going to start with you this time just to change it up a little bit.
Sure. I'm happy to do that because I think you guys heard it just even in the last like 30 seconds of me talking. My belief makes me passionate. This passion can sometimes be overwhelming and a little pushy and can look judgmental. So that's where like I say it's judgy, like I'm getting judgy. Oh, don't be judgy, like careful about that. It's that double-edged part of it, right? So like I know what my beliefs are, and if I see someone who is not kind of aligning with those, I start to make judgments quickly on what that person's belief structure might be. And where it's easy to start to pass those judgments on others based on like what I think their motivations are, but their motivations may be very differently than mine, and it doesn't mean they're wrong. So it's that like constant like double check, like, okay, hold on, maybe to them getting the job done today isn't the most important. Maybe to them, like they need their family time. They have great boundaries on like, this is work time, this is family time. I'm sorry that this job didn't get done today. I need to go home to my family. And that is not something where I should just, judge their work ethic or their responsibility to their job. I should be looking at it from like their responsibility to their family, right? So like that's a really, it feels bad example of how it's worked in me and how some of that judgy has come out for me in the past. So I think it's keeping those judgments on check regularly, trying to check those judgments.
Jen, I couldn't help but notice you had a big smile while Jen's talking, particularly the first part of it. I'm just wondering what was running through your head, or what would you want to add on to what Jen just offered?
It's a big smile because Jen and I have worked together quite a bit, and I know how passionate she is. And, I see the good in that. I see the beauty in it and the strength in it when it comes through and we're working together. And I've seen it impact the clients that we've worked with together. So anyway, it was a smile of, all positivity and me just seeing the greatness in it. And I agree with her. At times it can make, for me personally, it can make me outwardly that way. But I think even more so, and this is like really raw, but like when I think about what I learned about belief over the past 15 years is that it's made me rigid in certain things in my life. And that's me and like how I go about my life every day. Like I have to run 6 days a week, or, even on my honeymoon, I was exercising because I just believe exercise is important, or, I eat a certain way. It's like, I'm kind of an all or nothing person. And I know that that can be good because it's contributed to a healthy lifestyle for me as an adult, as an example, but it can also be bad because I might not be the funnest person in the group because I'm a little bit rigid when it comes to certain things. If I believed my kids needed to go to bed at 7:30 at night when they were, infants, I did it every night, no matter what was going on in life. I had other friends that kept their kids up all night long. All the kids turned out fine and they're all 20 now, but I believed it was very important to go to bed at 7:30 and get a good night's sleep and be well rested. So if I believe in something, I have a tendency internally to build my life in more of like a structured, rigid way. So it can be a little bit less fun.
Does it edge on sort of an OCD kind of application? Or I mean, I don't want to diagnose at all over a Zoom call, but but I'm just curious.
I mean, sure, if you want to call it that. I mean, I don't know. To me, it's just a little bit less fun than other people. People who are high adaptability, they're a little bit more fun. They go with the flow and they're a little bit more flexible about things, but
I think it's so interesting. You just said like it's less fun. So I remember when I first got my talents. So my team all had like really high relationship building themes. They were all these one and other ones, like all these wonderful
Yeah.
ones, positivity and woo and communication and, like, oh, great. And then they got mine and they're like, oh, yours are boring. And I'm like, oh, like, isn't that like the epitome of responsibility, belief, deliberative, and achiever? Like these, I'm like, really, like we're
These
gonna
can do
do
great
this,
things
right?
though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So it's funny to hear you say that you feel like that your belief makes you rigid and a little less fun, because I feel that too. Not
Yeah.
for you, but for me.
Yeah. It's very internal.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
So, we've talked a lot about how this has played out. This theme has played out in both of you. Given that we're all coaches and have experienced clients with this theme, I'm suspecting that at least. I'm curious if, Gina, I'm gonna start with you. Just given your experience, and you've probably coached a lot more people than Jen and I have. What have you seen in terms of other components around this theme that you think people should be aware of that you might have seen in other clients, but not necessarily in yourself?
Well, I think I shared this yesterday, but I'm fascinated by the fact that out of hundreds of people that are in my little system, just in the past few years, not many have belief in their top 5. So I don't have a depth of information to share with you, but I can share with you about 2 different people. One that's a leader who I just have admired the way he was able to always sell the why to his employees and always keep the vision and the mission at the forefront of their mind, even if those talents weren't as natural. He was very good at getting everybody to see and buy in because he had belief strong. And for him, he felt it was very important for everybody to know every day how they contributed and what their, what the big picture of the organization is. Yeah. And he was exceptionally talented at that. So I love seeing that in a strength state. On the other side, I had an employee recently who shared with me that they ask why oftentimes when something's changing. They want to understand why. And while there's many talents that might contribute to that why question, this employee felt that it was their belief system. Like they have to be able to believe in this change or they're not going to follow.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. If you can't get me to believe in this, I'm going to stick over here because it's not going to be worth changing, right? Yeah. Or doing or moving or adjusting. And so this employee said that, oftentimes in meetings and in working with a team, that the teammates would get very frustrated with this person because they really wouldn't budge unless they believed in it and unless they understood the why behind something. So the teammates would get exasperated and until they understood the language and understood who this person was, and that all they had to do was really help them understand the why. Right. And then that would be a great way to get them on board. And then they would lead the charge in getting others to believe in it. So yeah, so it was fun to watch them go through that journey.
Yeah.
Nice. It's interesting. I so relate to that because you mentioned about that why coming from a couple different places, and I think when you shared that yesterday in our pre-show, that I mentioned analytical often is the one most associated with that why question of, well, why are we changing this? Why are we doing this? What's going on? And you opened my eyes to it could also be from a place of belief. So thank you very much for that contribution. Jen,
or they may not go and they won't ask why, who can be also an issue on a team, right?
Yeah.
If they're strong in belief and they don't ask and they just don't believe in it, they're not going to follow.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Jen, are there other highlights you've seen from people you've coached or other ways you've seen belief talents applied that maybe our listeners could benefit from?
I think there's kind of that common thread of doing the right thing. And obviously, like, the right thing might be different based on their core beliefs, because back to Gallup's definition, it's that certain core beliefs. So they're different for every person. So where Gina's and I have very similar core beliefs, honestly, like if you look back at our value system, we value very similar things, but there might be others that have different values, that they put ahead of what we had as our values. So understanding that based on the values of each person, it is really about doing the right thing. I think we all have this thread of passion about it. Like if we believe it, you're gonna know it. They tend to share their opinions openly. and that can have, you know, kind of two sides to it too. Like if they've done that and they're not in a safe place to share their opinions, they might stop asking why. They might just shut down and keep quiet. So those are like kind of the common threads I've seen. I had one manager who was high belief and also high harmony. And for him, I saw him really using his harmony and his belief together to build those connections between people, find the consensus of where everyone's beliefs aligned in order to get his team on board. And he did a really wonderful job with it, I think, without even realizing that that's what he was doing. Just because he was constantly looking for those places where things were the same and people aligned the same way, and then really using that to motivate the team. I think he did a really great job. But that's really like the only places I've seen that are maybe a little different than mine. But otherwise, that you know, common thread, doing the right thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring up something that I found very fascinating in our pre-show conversation around this, which is both of you made comments around how belief and employee engagement tie together. I know, Gina, this is sort of a specialty of yours in terms of focusing on employee engagement. Jen, I believe you're the one that sort of brought it up of seeing the switch. Yes, I'm just wondering if you could speak to that, because I don't want to give it away, because I thought you said it so beautifully yesterday when we were talking.
Well, and I really wish we could show Gina's boat analogy that she has when she talks about engaged employees. So when we talked about this during our pre-show, it was about that doing the right thing. So I said that I think the employees with belief can be the easiest ones to spot from fully engaged employee. They are rowing the boat. They are at the front of it. They are, you know, steering down. They are making this happen. We are leading the charge to being fully disengaged. We are drilling holes in the boat. We are, you know, using our oars to go the opposite way. Maybe we're knocking people out of the boat in order to keep it from going. Like, it's that belief almost can feel like we would rather sink than go the wrong way. For me, that's rang very true in all of the roles I've been in every job I've been in. I can say I have been in those places on the boat, to the point where I know that if I'm going to be disengaged, it is time for me to move on, because either people stop listening or asking for the help and for the guidance to move the right direction, or it's not going to go well, and it's not the right place for me. So, Gina, do you have anything to add?
Oh no, I think you said it beautifully.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a tough one. I'm not saying it only comes from belief, you know, being an engaged employee versus disengaged. There's so many things that leaders can do to help. And in so many cases, with me personally, when that's happened, it's been about the team leader. You know, if I see the team leader leading us in a way that I don't think is right, like I can't follow. I can't.
Yeah. Very good for people to know. And it's also really nice that you highlighted that very quick lens, or very easily to identify that switch, because you will go from a hardcore advocate to the biggest anchor in the world, and not helping a team. So thinking, you know, sometimes we've talked a lot about different ways that we've verbally described this theme. I am kind of curious, just because we as humans love visual triggers or visual cues. I'm wondering if there are particular visuals, or, you know, we've talked about fictional characters before in some of our other episodes. Are there images that come to mind when you think about belief that might help others connect with or associate a person on their team with this particular theme, even if they haven't taken the CliftonStrengths yet? And Gina, I'm gonna put this on your court first.
Sure. There are so many famous people, so many fictional characters. There's just so many examples that we could use. If you're talking about an image, I think the thing for me personally that comes to mind is a North Star, because I think it's the belief that guides me to do everything that I do in my life and always have. when I think about characters, I think about Ted Lasso, right? If
Oh,
you've
nice.
watched,
Yeah.
oh gosh, it's such a great show, and he might be my favorite character of all time. But for sure, I have to imagine if it was real, that Belief would be in his top 5, no question. I mean, Belief is on the door of the locker room, and I mean, that's everything to them is about their belief. So that's what I picture when I think of that word.
That's good.
Awesome. Great, 2 great examples. Jen, what are the images that you'd go to?
I always think of the rock, right? It's that like, you're not building your house in sand. We're going to build it on the rock. It's stable and foundation, not moving. And then I'm going to go back to my Parks and Rec people. So there's a character on it. His name is Craig, and he's rather passionate. And he's screaming at one of the other girls, like, yes, I have a condition. It's called caring too much, and it's incurable, right? So like I feel like that's a little bit of a taste of the belief, maybe really, really powerful.
The caring too much?
Yes.
Is that, yeah, okay. Well, I jumped to that phrase because I've noticed that in both your answers about the passion and the the why, and wanting to be right in the thick of it for the right reasons. So I think those are great. As we start thinking about taking this from the person to the team, I'd love to get your perspectives on what you think this theme's best contribution is to a team, and if you want to approach it as from a team member, sort of an individual contributor lens, and then also maybe as a team leader lens. And so just to keep things fair, because my harmony doesn't like to let things go one way or the other too much. Jen, I'm going to put this on to you first. How have you seen this be a benefit to a team, or how do you see it playing out?
I think as a team member, if you're able to get someone who's on your team who has belief, if you're able to tap into their core beliefs, their values, and tie your mission for what you're doing to their personal purpose, they're going to be loyal and dependable for your cause and really work for you. And on the leadership side, I'd say really using your values and beliefs to honor and support your team will directly affect those like 4 needs of followers. Like it's definitely going to help build stability, show compassion for your team, help to build that trust, and instill hope. Those are our 4 needs of followers. And I really think that being able to tie your personal values to each member of your team will really help you with those 4 things.
Okay.
Gina?
Yeah, you said it beautifully, Jen. So when I think about the leader, and Chad, you brought this up yesterday, leaders with belief that have positive, strong values,
right?
Lead by example. And then, and by leading by example, by being the person that shows up, by being the person that's loyal, by being the leader that's honest, by being the leader that's stable and consistent, and maybe less bending, but just knows the direction that we need to go, people will follow, and it does provide for the needs of followers, as Jen mentioned. So I think about the strongest leaders in my life, and I have a brother as an example, a brother-in-law as an example, someone that I used to work with as an example, that were great leaders, but they were also great people who had very strong values and very strong positive values that anybody would admire and want to be like. So I think that when you have belief high, those values resonate to everything you do. At work, at church, in your community, at home, with your family.
Yeah.
Gina, it was awesome to talk about the team leader. Do you see any sort of variation on that, or a different application of belief when it comes to the team member or an individual contributor in terms of making a contribution to the larger team effort?
I do. I think they're going to be able to articulate the why to others who can't see it. If they understand it clearly. So nice. Jen talked about the impact. As long as you get their personal why, they're going to, deliver at a very high level, and they will be at the front of that boat, rowing in the right direction, giving you 100% of their effort, but they'll also get other people on board, and they'll be able to positively influence others if they are a strong believer in the mission and vision of the company.
Excellent. Beautifully said. Well said.
Thank you.
I'm going to flip the question a little bit and go to, we all know from our coaching backgrounds that themes can be turned up a little too loud, a little too warm. I'm curious, as leaders that might be listening to this, what should they be on the lookout in terms of what might be a negative application of a belief or maybe a belief theme, either running too hot or too cold, again, for both an individual team member as well as maybe somebody's listening that's working for a team leader with belief running too hot or too cold. What's the negative impact on a team?
I think with an employee, if I were a leader working with a team and I had employees with high belief, I would be very in tune with their temperature and whether they're following and whether they're buying in and understand the mission and their contribution to that mission. And I would make sure that they were on board. And I think to be aware of, if they're not, they'll check out and they'll be hard to get back at times. But even more than that, like even just a slight awareness that there's a big change coming, we're moving offices or we're changing how we're doing something. People with high belief and other themes, but belief is one of them, that they might have more difficulty with change unless they understand the why. So you have to kind of look at how will they handle change? How will they handle conflict? How will they handle these different things that they're faced with because of who they are? So I think it can be incredibly helpful to have that. That's why I love CliftonStrengths, right? Because we have this universal language that can help us we don't treat each other the way we want to be treated. We treat each other the way they need to be treated. Yeah. And somebody with belief needs to be treated a certain way to help get their buy-in and have them follow. So as a leader, I would really care about that and what their why is and help them be on board with it. Yeah.
When you were answering there, Gina, I was hearing echoes of the unbending aspect. If you've got a team member that's a little unbending, that could have a sort of a speed brake effect of slowing down the team if they're not willing to get on the right train.
Right. It never happens on a team. Nobody ever has that happen on a team.
Everybody's going to hell all the time, right?
Jump head first with my activator. Activator number 6, I'm like, come on, let's do it. But but we know it can happen. And having this universal language can help so much just to understand who might have a more difficult time with bending.
Yeah. Excellent contribution. Jen, I'm going to, I guess, sort of leave maybe the last words to you in terms of the negative, impact of somebody with belief talents impacting a team.
I think Gina said it perfectly. Really not understanding or not being the team members that aren't sharing their why. It may be, especially for a team leader, not sharing the why with his team members. Can be really dangerous because you can't keep people on board. Maybe if they don't know why they're doing it. We're always going to have some followers who are going to be happy to follow no matter what it is. But if you have some of those team members who are a little more unbending, it might be important for you to share your why as a leader, and then also as the team member to see what your purpose is, share what your purpose is and what your why is with your team and your team leader, because sharing that information, like Gina said, using this language that CliftonStrengths gives us, shows us what we need. And if we don't know how to ask for what we need, this is the perfect place to find that, because we don't know that we've needed that or that no one else needs it. We're the only ones, I think that's the biggest hole we all fall into, is that we think everybody's just like us. So, hey, Gina's got beliefs, so Gina must be just like me. And so I'm going to just tell her this and she's going to be right on board. It may not align with her belief system, her values, and what she needs. So, I need to learn about Gina a little closer to understand what her purpose is, what is her value, so that I can get her on board. And then I think understanding that if the team's values or the core value that we're going for does not match the individual values of the people, if we don't find some alignment there, it is that like stalling and slowing the progress can happen. So as a team leader, being so aware of when that's happening, when someone's checked out, getting to the bottom of that quickly is really important, and then pulling them back on board, because we don't need anybody drilling holes in the boat.
Awesome
And
contributions.
It's just like we've said in other things. It's not out of malicious intent, right? Like, we don't really want to drill holes in the boat because we want the boat to sink for malicious reasons. It's, there's always, at least most of the time, there's like good in the background. There's positive intent there. So like with Gina and I, we talked about that trust being something so high. So, having the trust of the team, if you're lying, if you're asking me to do something unethical, I'm probably not going to move. It's not for a bad reason, it's for a good reason, that this isn't right,
Yeah.
So I think always
Sure.
remembering that there's this positive intent, and then it may just not come out positively in the moment, but that if you dig deeper, you can get to the positive intent of what's really going on, and find some consensus to be able to move forward.
Awesome. Before we wrap up, I'm going to just open up the table real quick. If there's any other big highlights or things that you think our audience should know about belief that we have not covered, or something that you really want to highlight again, maybe this is the 2-minute the 2-second version of what would you really want to convey to people that they should really know about the belief theme that we maybe haven't already covered. Gina, you look ready to say something.
Yeah,
Sure. I mean, what comes to mind when you ask that is that there's no one answer, because we're all so complex. So,
Obviously,
even though Jen and I share a lot in common, we've worked together, we know each other pretty well, and we have a lot of things about our beliefs that are very similar. But, my biggest thing that I want people to hear is you have to be curious. You have to ask questions, because my belief is going to show up different than other people's beliefs.
Yeah.
And it's so much dependent upon the other themes that drive the other things that we do, and nothing stands alone. It's really this intricate combination of who we are. So I would leave you with, these are just some examples of how it plays out for us, but that doesn't mean it's how it plays out for other people, because we're all so complex. And so much more than just our themes.
Oh, very much so.
absolutely.
And yeah.
And I love that even just with the two of us, you can see the difference between the executing themes and where that pushes me and my belief, compared to your influencing and relationship building themes that pushes your belief. So I just think it's really interesting how they all play so perfectly together to make us different. But like Chad said, we each ask why, but maybe for different reasons. So it's finding that motivation that's just below the surface, I think is key. Yeah. Asking questions. Great.
Well,
Gina, thank you.
On that, I'm gonna let our audience know that if they want to ask questions about CliftonStrengths or anything that we've talked about, all of our content information will be in the show notes, and that we stand ready to help others learn about their CliftonStrengths. I want to thank again Gina for coming and joining us today, and for sharing your unique perspective on belief. I think you make a great point that we are all very different. We were just hoping that through today to highlight some of the similarities and some of the possible ways people might want to start thinking about their themes, and then hope that they engage one of us in future coaching. So, but thank you very much for joining us, Gina. It's been a pleasure to hear you. And I've learned a few more things about belief, even though it's, sitting basically 14 for me. So some things resonated, and other things coming from different places for me. So with that, I'm going to thank Gina again, and bid everybody a great day. And we hope that you'll listen to this and future episodes with us. Have a great day.
Thank you.